You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call with co-host Brad Hunt. And today's episode is with John and Michael Edwards. John is the owner of Schnee'S, best-in-class hunting boots and footwear located in Bozeman, Montana. I love this conversation. John is a super interesting character, law school, Division I basketball player, engineer, reader, and hunter. John's son, Michael, is on his own journey with hunting, and it's become quite the passion for him. You don't want to miss this episode. It's about a man's meandering but bold life journey, and the eclectic and varied experiences of John Edwards rarely appear in the life of a single person. And if you've not given a pair of Schnee'S boots a try, consider checking them out. The next time you're in the market for a new boot, you'll be glad you did.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brad Hunt. We got Brian Call here. We got John Edwards and Michael Edwards from Schnee'S. Kind of want to sit down with you guys, get a little backstory as we've started testing some of the boots as of late.
Couldn't we have been recording for the last half hour?
We
It's
could have
true.
been.
I mean,
Gold. I know.
We had a great conversation. We were making fun of Michael over here. Big Mike, I guess, right? No, we're over here at the Schnee'S office and just finished up with Duckworth.
We're in Bozeman, Montana, and I would like to know, how long have you guys had this shop here?
Well, we've had it 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a lot of history here, though, that goes way back. So we sometimes say 1946.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wants to say 1903 because the building we're sitting in was built in 1903. So
Wow.
for the West, it's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
And this is kind of a historical building. It's called the Story Block Building, named after Nelson Story, who arguably was one of the guy who brought cattle up from Texas.
Dang.
I think the story goes that they based Lonesome Dove on his character. So anyhow, Nelson Story cut a pretty wide swath in those days, and so yeah, it's a cool old building. And then the 1946 part was two guys after World War II started Powderhorn Outfitters, and it's George Deeriff Sr. and Bob Bradford, and they were expert hunters and just came out of the military, so they kind of had that generation in them, and just great guys, and so we were fortunate enough to be able to take the handoff from the Deeriff family and from the Schnee family, and so that's kind of the backstory.
What is the Schnee name? What's the origin of that?
So it's a family name. Steve Schnee and his wife Jean came out from the East Coast and settled in Bozeman because they thought it was a cool place to live, kind of like hippies, And Steve, and they're super smart, super athletic, mountain people, and Steve was a cobbler. He was he was a boot and shoe repair person, and a very good one. And he was a wrestler, all around great guy, astonishing guy, really. And gradually just kind of lived their life and raised kids and raised their family. And the first Schnee boot was a boot we still make here in Bozeman, Montana. It's a Schnee pack boot called the Hunter 2. And that Steve sort of realized that, the LL Bean Maine hunting boot, which works pretty good in the Adirondacks, doesn't quite handle the Rockies too well. So the Schnee boot was born, and it's a sort of a beefed up bean boot on steroids that's made and tailored to be able to go hunt elk in the Rockies. And I think Jim Windjam was involved in that as well, and he should get credit. But yeah, that boot kind of got born and became a legend still in the line. And it's a boot I say every hunter should have in his closet.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have I don't know if it's the Hunter or what. I mean, it was like, it's over almost 18, 17 years old, something like that. One of the first boots, actually the only pair of boots I've ever bought from Schnee'S, but feeding cows, ranching and stuff like that. And I've outgrown them, but I still have them. and they're old. They're old.
Well, let's get you fixed.
I would like to get some new ones because they don't fit anymore.
Because they only last about 40 years. So,
and the lasting is not the problem. It's the foot size has changed as I've gotten older. So.
No, I've still got my first pair. I think they're like a men's 5, but
yeah. I mean, I needed sister, I was feeding cows. I needed something in the -2 temperatures and stuff.
What amazes me about it is it's sort of an old world technology in an age of all new modern stuff.
Yeah,
but it keeps right on clicking, man. It works, and you got a vulcanized rubber bottom with a removable liner and a proprietary pattern that we of course own the rights to, and so it has some attributes that just can't be beat.
Last year, we did a couple of seminar events that were like 2.5, 3-day weekend events. We're doing those again this year. We're going to 4 different Scheels locations, and we're going to do a seminar. Myself, Ryan Lampers, and Mark Livesey. One of them is a bear tour event.
Boise, Idaho.
The other 3 are elk related. Yep. So if you want to come to those events, they're in 4 different states.
Idaho, Montana, Colorado, and Texas.
There you go. To learn about it, we're calling it the Peaks Tour. Go to treelineacademy.net. Go over there, look up the Peaks Tour information there. You can sign up. Come join us. Like I said, it's myself, Ryan Lampers, Mark Livesey. We're going to be at each of those events. Come, learn, and ask us questions. It was a hit last year when we did it, so I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's a fun multi-day event, and hope to see you there. Go to treelineacademy.net and look up the Peaks Tour. It's crazy. It's kind of like when we were sitting here with Mike with Duckworth. Some of that wool clothing is just old world kind of stuff. It just gets the job done. And as much as we have tried the synthetic new, mid-layer kind of that wet season stuff, we just keep coming back to, we've been wearing that thing for like 5 years. Even though we have options we get free hunting gear all the time. We have a whole closet full of every brand name. I got it all. And I keep going back to the Duckworth stuff. And it's like, well, why? And it's just because you can't, it just does something that these synthetics and other ones aren't doing.
It works.
Yeah. Just the other night, we had an awesome event up here with guys from like Uncharted and like John Barclow. And we're talking, it's like all this innovation is, down and synthetics and trying to get light and moisture wicking and stuff, but you're really just chasing like what God already created with merino wool. And it's the best stuff out there. And
look, like I'm so thrilled with cutting edge rain gear. Doesn't weigh like it used to. And it works for a season or 2. So I'm all down with that synthetic product, but dang, man, when it comes down to just the next to skin layers, the midweight layers, and the wet Alaskan Kodiak Island type layers where the other stuff just is cold when it gets wet.
Yeah.
And this just has a way.
And that's where like the Hunter pack boot, you got an insulated liner that you can pull out because it's a heavily insulated boot. They don't dry out with the leather and the rubber, and you throw them on the boot dryers and you have a warm piece of equipment that your foot's going in every time, which is really nice.
As long as them liners are warm, you should be totally good to go the next day.
And throw a pair of wool socks in the mix, and you got a pretty good recipe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, man, the Duckworth story is great.
Yeah,
and we've been blessed to participate in the founding of that business, and our partners, the Helly family over in Dillon, are just the best people on the planet, and so it's been really fun and not easy.
I bet.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's like
ranching in itself is not easy. And then you try to run a different business.
U.S. manufacturing is easy.
Well, everybody's doing it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
But I'm sure Mike. I don't want to rehash what Mike already told you, but go ahead and start making your own yarn.
You're right.
Yeah. Just try that. And then knit that into 7 different configurations, knit and weave. And so, the Helly family, John Helly's kind of the patriarch. Tom Helly's his brother, fantastic guys. Karen is kind of holds it all together. And then Evan and Weston and Nate, they're just phenomenal people, really. Like, if you like smart, tough, hardworking, they're your guys.
So how did you get in this position? What's your story?
The details of my life are inconsequential. Summers in Rangoon, meat helmets, shorn. No, never mind. I'll stop that. Just, make it short and snappy. But my godparents were ranchers when I was a kid growing up in Northern California. And I was born in a little town called Wairika by the Mount Shasta, Klamath River area. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous place, kind of like Montana.
How far from Quincy is that?
Not too far.
I was going to say, I spent a lot of time in Quincy at the railroad and
not
stuff.
Not too far.
The name sounds
it's not far from Weed either.
Okay. Yeah.
My
Weed,
uncle's
Quincy.
Yeah.
My uncle's from there.
Really?
Bill Morris.
Okay.
And I went to high school in there. And then my grandpa owned the cabin right by the Wairika airport.
Okay. Yeah.
He had a plane there.
Yeah.
We grew up going out there all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And his cabin was pink and blue because my grandma's a little off. So she painted it pastel pink and blue. But spent a lot of time near Shasta, and up on the lakes there, and we'd water ski and that area.
You ever hunt in there?
Yeah. Blacktails,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trinity Alps.
Yes.
Some good country.
I had my grandpa on the podcast. He's talking about, kind of when the game laws first kicked off. And they were kind of like, we didn't really have rules around that we really were aware of about shooting deer and stuff. And he's like, I was a bishop at this church and it was the recession. We were just killing deer and eating them and feeding to people from church. And he's like, and then the officer was like, you can't do that, Joe. You can't just shoot deer. And then they're stashing them under wood pile. Then they had the rule, like they'll take your gun away if they catch you, because they had rules and you get a fine and then you just get away with it. It was kind of a cultural shift to make.
For sure. Different time too.
They didn't see it as like.
For lots of people out west. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, I'm fascinated with the history of wildlife in the West.
Right.
And at the time when the buffaloes were about extinct, so was everything else.
Right.
I mean, it was bad. And a lot of that had to do with, market hunting and the Hudson Bay Company. And
right.
Lots of stuff. It's complicated, interesting, but.
Yeah.
But some of it had to do with subsistence living by, pioneer type families who were feeding themselves.
Yep.
And you can be fairly harsh out here in the West.
He tells this story of a deer, like he hid it under the wood pile, and he's like, damn, that damn officer came out, that game officer, and he like had his dog and they searched. He was like 2 logs away from pulling that and finding that thing under there and taking my rifle and stuff. And
that's pretty funny.
And so, but then slowly, but surely we did what we needed to, made that stuff illegal and killed the market hunting and brought back wildlife. And it's a cool story, but, it's interesting to have had him on the podcast. He's passed away since, but to hear, I wanted to kind of get a lot of his stories, and what it was like. And it was, it's pretty nice to have that, but yeah, different times.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you don't get them now, I mean, they're just lost,
Yeah. Oh, I regret it. Like my grandpa, when he passed away a couple of years ago, I mean, all the hunting stories, the Kodiak station in the Navy stories, like we heard as kids. It's all just a fun memory, I remember little pieces of it. I remember hunting with them and stuff, but it's like all the stories I wish I'd had him sit down and tell them.
But that Wairika region, that is some redneck into the road, burning tires, throwing them off of country.
I would say times have changed there because I was there and
that was a party town when I was
not the last time I was there.
So exactly. So I had an IEL t-shirt on, and this was like in 2016, I think 2015, somewhere in there. And I had an IE elk shirt on, and I was in the grocery store minding my own business in Quincy, California, grabbing a few things, and this lady out of nowhere comes up to me, and she's just in my face like, you blah, 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 piece of crap, hunting, blah, blah, blah. And she's a very anti-hunter from that area and did not like that I had an IE elk shirt on.
It'll happen.
I wear elk. Just like I shoot elk.
Yeah.
I eat the elk.
She was. And so the store owner comes over and he's like, hey, ma'am, I think it's time for you to leave. And I was like, what just happened?
I think that might be more of a Quincy thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Probably. But yeah. So what brought you to Montana?
No, it was cool. So I kind of been all over, but my father was a basketball coach and a good one. He coached Wairika High School, and he was the milkman in Wairika too. And my mom was a teacher, and won a few ball games with a great player from Quincy, actually, named Bill Stricker. And then he got a job in Sacramento, coaching high school at a little bit bigger high school. So we moved, and then he won some ball games, and we got hired as a first college job was at University Pacific, which was in Stockton, California. So that's kind of where I grew up when I was a little kid, was in Stockton. And Stockton was great. Just loved it.
Been there too. It's not so great anymore.
It was the highest crime rate. It was the highest crime rate in America when we lived there.
Wow.
And like, we lived in fairly modest circumstances, but Dad won a few ball games, started, I think, the first black point guard in the history of UOP. This is in the 60s, right? Okay. So there's some racial stuff still is in Stockton, actually. And so, like, all around us, houses are vandalized, broken into, burglarized, our house untouched. And I'm pretty sure it's just because, hey, man, that's where Coach Edwards is at. Just leave him. Leave him alone, man. They got a game tonight.
That's so classic, right?
But, I mean, the sports were off the charts. Just every sport you could think of. We ran around like a pack of wolves as kids. We had a minor league baseball team in town. It was just, it's 113 degrees. And we did every crappy job you can think of when it was hot, but it was really good. And the hunting was good, great bird hunting, great waterfowl. You had, the Trinity Alps and blacktail hunting was great. Although I didn't get to do a lot of deer hunting when I was a kid, because kind of playing sports and stuff, but it was great. Well, then anyhow, fast forward, and he eventually became the head coach at Cal Berkeley and was there for 6 years. Wow. Then he got fired. Wow. And took the job at Eastern Montana. So we moved to Billings in 78.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that went.
Yep. And so when you moved here, 78, how did you roll into the boot business?
So I'll go fast. It's circuitous. So I went to college in New Hampshire at Dartmouth.
Okay.
And my mom and dad drove me down to the bus station in Billings and put me on the bus.
So why Dartmouth? From that's a long...
From Billings to New Hampshire, which is a 5-day bus ride, by the way. So something I'm very proud of now. Yeah.
Academic parents? I mean, is it
basketball?
Yeah, believe it or not, I played college basketball. Nice. I don't even tell people that, because like, oh, really? Sure. I'm sure you guys were great.
So I had either two concepts. You were a point guard or a bareback rider, because you're built like a bareback rider.
No, I wish I was a bareback rider. I wish I was.
Yeah, I was not. I got on one bareback horse and was like,
you're too big.
I'm like, screw that. So I went back to bull riding and then team roping and calf roping.
Exactly.
And when I'd get in the chutes on a horse, because I did some saddle bronc too, which I should have stuck with saddle bronc more, because I had short body, long legs.
Yeah.
But I'd get in the chutes on those horses and they're like this. And so then I would get really nervous. Where the bull riding, I was calm, cool, collected, and I just get in the chute and was fine, because the bulls are like...
all insanity.
The bulls are like, I got a job to do. The horses are like, I'm so nervous, get me out of the chute, that I would get shaking. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do the whole anxious thing. So,
dude, rodeo is my favorite sport by a mile. It's between UFC and rodeo now.
It's great.
UFC is insane, obviously. But rodeo's...
The hardest thing I ever did was stop rodeoing.
Like Ty Erickson is an absolute idol of mine. Yep. He's a bulldogger from Helena. Yep. And then we sponsored a bareback rider from Nevada. I lived in northern Nevada for a while too.
Okay. Wyatt Denny.
Named Wyatt Denny, who I haven't even looked to see if he made NFR, but
I don't think he did this year. Actually, I don't know
who he is.
Yeah, I do know. I don't know the name. I don't know him personally, everything like that. But
great kid, great family. Yeah,
that's cool,
and talented guy. So, anyhow, point guard. Yeah, dumb question.
Nice.
And it was D1 hoops, so I'm proud of that. And I played 4 years, and I played with one great player, Larry Lawrence, who played in the NBA for and
I wouldn't look. I'm no offense, but I just that's not a guess I could have even come up with. and D1, and this would be what year would this be?
78 to 82.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
So we got to play against North Carolina when they were number 1 in the country. We won a big Christmas tournament in New York. We beat UMass.
How fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
How fun.
It was fun.
So did the girls, like, were they like crushing on the guys on the team and all that? Like college level?
Infamous Dartmouth girls.
I'm such a nerd, so I'm super nerdy. And I studied engineering. And when I went to Dartmouth, it had just become co-ed.
No way.
Way. It was just, we had like,
just brand new.
We had like a dozen girls on campus. And so they got a lot of attention.
Yeah. I can imagine.
But yeah, it was, it was fun. And I don't know what we're talking about.
Did you meet your wife there? When did she come along?
Okay, here's where the story gets really bad. So I studied engineering. And I was writing software for Texas Instruments in Lubbock, Texas in 1981.
Okay.
And then my father died when I was in college. And that was a tough one for me. I was pretty close with my dad.
Right.
And
would he have been like mid-50s?
He was 50. Yeah, dropped dead in Billings on the way to practice.
Dang it.
And a dear friend of mine who I played all through high school with was playing for him at Eastern. It was then called Eastern Montana College. Now it's called Montana State University Billings.
Okay.
So anyway, that was kind of a jolt. But so then it was sort of for my dad that I was studying engineering. I enjoyed it. I like physics and chemistry and hard science, and I was pretty good at math, and I like all that stuff. But I wanted to go to law school, so I went to law school. So not only am I'm a recovering attorney. Okay, don't hold it against me,
dude. There's a lot of turns and twists here.
Like full confession. Okay,
I did not expect it at all. Yeah, I'll be honest, I did not expect it at all.
No, it's pretty sad, but
interesting.
Actually, studying law is really interesting. I enjoyed it a lot.
Dude, the skill sets that you would need to develop just for courtroom presentation, argumentative like approaches, conversation, like that seems like such an invaluable asset to have in your life.
It's a good education, really. It's logic and pretty rigorous, pretty hard in a way. Very similar to engineering, actually. If you think about it, engineering and hard science involves equations with constants and variables. Very much like a law is an equation, and you plug the facts into the equation, and that leads to a result. So there's similarities from a kind of academic perspective, I guess. But,
wow. Okay.
So yeah, it was fun. So that's how I met my wife.
In law school?
No, practicing law at a big law firm. So I practiced law for 13 years.
Who'd you work for?
A big firm in San Francisco called Brobeck, Flager, and Harrison, which was an old-time law firm that was fantastic when I was there. So I did like
how long
corporate litigation.
How long did you do it?
13 years.
I worked for Arthur Andersen.
Yeah.
And then
tax consulting.
Yeah, CPA. Like I wasn't a CPA. I did internal audit.
Nice.
And then I did a lot of Sarbanes-Oxley audits for a good decade.
Super cool.
Documented business processes, and then
I think that's one of the dumbest laws ever passed in the history of the United States.
Hey,
yeah,
I agree. But I will say this: that when Enron when they had the whole Enron thing, and Arthur got indicted, then
that's right.
I ended up working for Robert Half International.
Oh, yeah.
And then they owned Protiviti, which was sort of the internal audit department of Arthur Andersen. They got spun off and renamed.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't practice under Arthur Andersen. They lost until the indictment ended, they couldn't certify or do any public certification. They lost their ability to certify audits. And so it was a wild time. I just sort of rolled with the punches, went to different companies, did different things.
Learned a ton. It was great. Yeah.
I just like sit down and tell the Nike CEO that, his internal controls were all messed up.
Who was that?
I don't remember.
Are you good friends with the Nike CEO who's just stepped down?
I worked for, I was I enjoyed the Nike audits, but I ended up doing a lot of insurance stuff.
Yeah.
over the Standard Insurance Company.
Yep.
I was with them for a while in downtown Portland before they burned it down. But, but in 2016, I quit and was like, you know what? I'm going to be a podcaster. And, yeah.
Never look back.
It's just crazy.
You guys
ride.
got all these cool stories. I'm just a dumb farm ranch kid from Idaho that played basketball and rodeo and football, whatever.
Dude, I'd give
sell shoes.
when you first walked up, I was looking at your buckle like, dang, man, I'd give you anything to have it.
So I always go back to this one because I'm like, it's the first one I won. I have a few others and stuff, but and I did make it like into state and all that stuff. And then I broke my wrist the first year, so I couldn't team rope or calf rope, and I made it. But then I tried to bull ride left-handed. Didn't work out so well, a week before state.
Were you better than your brother?
When my brother wanted to not party, he was good. He could be really good. He was built for it. I mean, he's a little shorter than I am, tough, short arms, but I would say 50-50. Like, we both could ride. Now, again, when he wanted to turn it on, he could do it. I was more focused on, like, I want to do it every time. And I don't think I was quite as skilled, maybe, because bull riding came a little harder. I'm pretty tall for a bull rider, but I had such long legs and a short body.
Brad has no torso.
Are
you kidding me?
I've
He's tall, like
so
from the
you should
crotch
never come
down.
off a bull with that body.
So it helped. So it helped a lot. But I do think, like, probably athletically, I think he was a better bull rider, honestly.
Yeah.
I was definitely a better basketball and football player, but he was little as far as weight wise, like 140 pounds his senior year, 145. But man, he bloodied some shins. Like, he was one of the most intense linebackers out there, running back. But he was tough.
Yeah,
he was tough. Now, my senior year, I hit 175 pounds and was different. I was fast. I was a lot faster than my brother, but he was a mean machine in the trenches for sure. But everything else athletically, like, I crushed my brother. Roping and crush him, whatever. But
Brad's roping relatives and family members.
We got some stories, man, like towards sheep. So there's one time we had this stupid lamb that was in with our steers all the time. She was like, I think the mom had died when they were lambing or whatever. I got it from my grandpa. And I was probably, 10, 11. And so when my dad and them would go to work, I'd come home after school and it's 85, 90 degrees outside, and I'd go rope this stupid lamb. Well, as through the fall started coming, she started getting her wool got thicker and thicker, and I got the rope on her, and it's still hot. And I knew at 4:30 my dad was going to be home.
Brad can use a rope.
I can rope.
I can tell. Yeah.
And I was trying to get that rope off that lamb, and it was stuck in the wool and everything like that. And my dad comes home early, and I'm trying to, the lamb is dying because she's been running around in the heat, and I'm trying to get
Animal abuse.
And that's just one of the stories, roping cousins. But my dad was so pissed off that I roped that lamb and was running it around in 80 to 85 degree weather. Couldn't get the rope off, but I was a wild child.
That's awesome.
Just a dumb farm kid, that is wild. I was a good kid, but I was a wild kid.
No, it's the best. I just have a ton of respect and admiration for rodeo and ranching in general.
Yeah.
I think ranchers are the backbone of America.
Absolutely.
I really do. I think a different breed of cat, and just
you can't teach that work ethic, to be honest.
It's hard. You can get it other places.
Yeah.
But nothing like ranch life. It's a real blessing.
Yep.
Hey folks, if you like the show and you want to support us, use the code GRIDDY over at Tricer. Head over to Tricer.com, check out their AD and their BC model tripods, the LP head. Combined, the AD weighs 38 ounces and the BC weighs 32 ounces. They're incredible tripods. They're super stiff, rigid. They perform excellent. The heads are beautiful, smooth. Check it out. You can't go wrong for a backcountry hunting situation. They're the tripod of choice for us right now. Check it out, Tricer.com. Use the code GRIDDY and save. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah, I think Brad is one of the hardest working men I have ever been around. In fact, when I was running the pod, I was doing Gritty, and Brad meets me at, it was a total.
The first time was TAC, yeah.
It was an archery shoot.
2018.
And we were up there on the mountain, and there's all these vendors and people around, and Brad's like, hey, and he's super polite, country. And he's like, it's a pleasure to meet you. And he's all formal and stuff. And he's like, I just want to let you know how much I like what you do, and da-da-da-da. And he's like, and if there's anything I could ever do to help out with what you do, I would be thrilled, and stuff. And I get people saying that to me all the time, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I really appreciate that. But he doesn't go away. He just keeps coming back. He runs into me here. He runs into me there. And he left a note on my truck, just similar, reiterating that same thing. And then we run into each other, I think, at the bow shop.
Yep.
And we're sitting there talking, and he says, again, like, if there's anything that you could do, I could, and what do you know how to do? Nothing. He doesn't know how to run a camera or how to do anything. I'm like, but I just had this feeling like he's willing to, he's like made it clear. I will work. I don't know how to do anything. I will work. So I was like, oh, you will you? Well, how about you show up here after you work the railroad all day? Mm-hmm. Show up over here at 5 o'clock and work till 9 or 10, and then get up in the morning and go back at 4 a.m. and work the railroad again.
Do it again.
Okay. And I'm like, the sucker shows up. This works for me for most of all the summer. And I'm teaching him. I'm like, I feel like now I have to teach this guy because he's here. But it's not making me any money, but I'm like, but maybe. And so I start teaching him, and he edits, and he learns how to run the camera, and he's just working, never complains. And then he drags his ass off and does the railroad again and comes back and learns from me. Well, after that summer was over, I was like, I've never been around someone as eager, humble, and willing to work as that. And so I was like, I got to hire him, and anything else I'll figure out later. Anything else that he needs to learn, I'll figure out how to. He can learn all that if you have this.
It's like you're putting a team together. You get the best athletes you can get.
Yeah,
that's what you do.
So all that's bullcrap. And all he wanted is he got to experience my elk calling in 2019. That's what he wanted to hire me for. So I'd been competing in like the world championships and stuff. I started competitive calling in 2017, just entered in this random stupid Idaho State thing, and accidentally entered in the pro division, won it, and then moved on to like Oregon and then I went to the world championships, and that's where we kind of ran into each other there.
You just got yourself invited to a great elk hunt.
He got to experience it again this year on his elk hunt, And
actually, that's also a lie, because I never call elk, and I hate calling elk. I'd rather just sneak up on them. But I will say that that Brad, I met some of the family too, and he had that work ethic. But more than that, I had been trying to film hunts for a while, especially archery, and inevitably you have a guy that knows how to. For sort of the brand, I was like, hey, I'm going on a hunt, and I could run a camera, but I can't bow hunt and run a camera. It was somewhat possible with rifle hunt, so I'd set up my camera and do the rifle thing solo, like film it myself. But with bow, it wasn't possible really to get a really good film. So I ended up hiring, here and there, or recruiting somebody to help film. And what you ended up with was really good cameramen that had never bow hunted. And Brad had killed, I think it was 17 elk, 17 years in a row.
16 bulls in like 18, 19 years of bow hunting. No, nothing big. Oh, but I was the weekend warrior.
Dude, who cares? It was public land over the counter.
Yeah, totally. I was very fortunate. My dad, like, it's boring to him, I would say, but it's like my dad has all these huge bulls, like nothing giant, but like good 310, 320, 330 bulls with his bow. And I mean, I was fortunate to kill my first one when I was 12. And I called my first elk into my dad when I was 10. And so, like, obviously he instilled elk hunting into me and stuff. So I was lucky.
The bottom line was
elk were in the backyard.
The bottom line was you can't teach that kind of. It takes a long time for someone to know how much they can get away with moving in the bubble on an elk.
For sure.
Where you can move the camera, when you can't. When they become. And I was like, this has got to stop. I have to hire a hunter and teach him how to film. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work the other way.
Yeah.
Not if you want a bow hunting film. And so at that point, that was the other thing, was he worked hard. He could do the hunting, so I'll teach him the rest. And it has been amazing because, a lot of what I'm capturing now, including that movie, the new movie we just did, The Struggle, I couldn't have done it without Brad. Not only was he calling in bulls for me and everything, but he's running that camera and it's just great. And so I go back to, like you're saying, like a coach would much rather have someone with a base level of talent, but the work ethic, than super talented and no work ethic, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's fantastic what you guys are doing with the production value of your films, because it's off the charts. And people don't understand how hard it is. Mm-hmm. Like really, I mean, hunting is hard.
Yeah.
Hunting and capturing it on film is like, I don't know.
I even when I started, I was naive about it, and I thought I can just bring any cameraman. No, it cost me so many great opportunities trying to film hunts.
Oh, I mean, how many arguments did we get in over the years, like trying to film our own hunts and stuff? And I'm like, the deer's at 200 yards. Like, you're gonna get it on film or not? I'm gonna shoot this thing.
And Michael's patience with the old man is like that. And so I'm like, hang on, I'm going to get this shot. And it's like, Dad, shut up. I'm just going to go shoot this buck.
It was like early days of like phone scopes and stuff, too. Right. You're trying to jam it on your spotter. It was like,
and I'm
not waiting.
Doesn't quite.
He's quartering away now. It's go time.
Yeah.
Dang.
No.
Yeah, it's funny. And years ago, I did a show with Jason Matzinger. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know Jason.
Yeah. Love Jason.
He's a friend and a good guy, and I'm super proud of what he's accomplished, and he's come a long way. You know, he was kind of self-taught in many ways too, and we screwed up a bunch of stuff.
Believe me.
But I left, and then he
took it to a new level.
Once he got out of the picture,
he dumped me early.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
So the law thing, then the wife. When did the boots come into play?
So I got out of law. I was super, super lucky, really, to meet up with some back to engineering and some really good computer science guys. One of whom is from Germany, who's a genius and invented and another guy who's from the U.S. who invented the first ISP, the first internet service provider.
Okay.
Genius level guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Who were really, really good. And there's just a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And this is the mid 90s in Silicon Valley. And there's just tons of stuff going on. And so got out of the law and got into early stage tech companies. And I was just had great partners who did a lot of the heavy lifting. I was kind of just lucky to be on the team and do the best I can to chip in. But some of those companies did well, and one of them we took public, which is a kind of an insane experience in and of itself.
Kind of exciting, but also like
hard to describe really what happens when you go from 0 employees, 0 people to 300 employees, offices in Europe and New York, Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Goes fast in 24 months.
Wow.
So screaming and talking about 20-hour days, nights and weekends, you know, hardcore stuff, but it was fun.
We took our company. We had 250 IT professionals that ran it stateside in Portland. And then it was, in less than 1 year, we've got to eliminate the entire IT division and replace it with IBM professionals in India. And they have to learn how to do the code, how to run the systems, how to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And as part of that, and it was just insane.
Yeah.
It was insane, the undertaking, you know.
Right.
And then I spent quite a bit of time in India, which
wild.
I did not like. I
need mountains.
Last night.
I need clean air.
I had no idea. That's wild.
And
what years is this?
Would have been 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
13, 14. You know, but I know what you mean, like trying to take a company from one size to the next and from private to public and all those changes. It's intense.
It is. It's intense. And I think it's good experience. And there's a lot of intense things guys like us get into, whether it's athletics, you know, a new venture, working railroad and then coming to learn a new thing.
Right.
I mean, as long as you have guts and determination and some smarts and a work ethic, man, there's basically nothing you can do. And that's what's so great about our country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's America,
100%.
man. And I feel like there's this kind of hopefully renaissance coming back to younger people learning the value of hard work.
Yeah.
If you work hard, pretty much nothing you can't do.
Well, I tell that to my boys, like, as they're playing sports now, basketball and football or whatever. I'm like, you might not be the most talented, but when you're out there playing the hardest defense on basketball that you can play, like, it's going to take you places. That's going to get noticed. Your laziness, your jogging up down the court, whatever it may be, that's going to get noticed too, but in the wrong way.
I've said this for years. Like I've been fortunate to hunt with some of the best hunters in the world. Ryan Lampers is one of the best hunters in the world. I've been around many. He's one of the best. It's innate. It's just, I don't know. I'm not, but I work really hard. So I feel like what I do is like the whole Gritty brand from the beginning was, I'm not naturally too gifted, but hey, I won't quit. And that right there is sort of me in a nutshell.
I think we might be kind of kindred spirits. I'm not an innate gifted hunter either. Yeah. I know guys who are. Big Mike over here definitely has some gifts as a hunter. You sort of know it when you see it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's those guys.
And I've been checked because I'm sitting there and I'm like, what we should do is sneak this way and climb to the hill right there. And Lampers, you don't say it out loud. You're just thinking it. That's how I do it. And then Ryan's like, this is what we're going to do. And it's the opposite. And you never thought of it. And you would never do it that way. Totally. And you go over there and you kill it. And you're like, damn it, I guessed wrong. Like if it were me.
But and that's so true. But also at the same time, like as you hunt, especially big mountain hunting, like, I mean, you learn from experience what best fits you. Cause like even Brian and I, like we're very similar and like really being able to slow stalk and stuff like that and stay quiet.
I'm sneaky. Yep. I do have that.
Yep. And I say I'm super sneaky as well, but I'm like 2x faster than Brian, I would say. But you learn like how to do those stalks, how it benefits you. Cause each person is completely different and you have to work towards your advantages.
That's a caveat.
That's a caveat. Exactly.
And I've been lucky to hunt with some great hunters, and you learn so much. Yeah. And I'm kind of like you. I don't quit, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
You'll never figure it out.
And that's the best part about it, though. Is like that's what's the best part about hunting for me is like every time you go out, you're learning something. Yeah. And it's always like you blow a stalk. It's I could have done this, should have done that, but and I mean I've just gotten into bow hunting really like the last 3 years, and that's like a whole different way of just like being quiet and just learning new things and kicking yourself in the balls over and over again, just being like, well, I blew that, but okay, I'll just do the same thing again tomorrow. Yep. Maybe it'll work out this time.
Yep.
So back to the boots.
So, we're living in northern Nevada and looking for kind of a change of pace. Had an opportunity to decide where we wanted to raise our family. Yeah. And having been in Montana since 78, I wanted to come here. My wife's from Ohio. I had to kind of get her acclimated and sensitized to the wonders of living in Montana. And, she's awesome. So she was like, yeah, sounds great. So we were very fortunate. One of my mentors in hunting was a World War II veteran named Bob Bauer, who passed away a few years ago. He was a Navy frogman. And 6'4",
tough old dude,
great athlete, just one of those classic old dudes, we were my first elk hunt was in the Gospel Hump Wilderness in Idaho, out of Riggins.
Yep.
And we got wrangled in there and did a drop camp, and it just kicked ass area up in there,
And before the wolves were there.
It was. Yeah. We were talking about that before we came on the air. Like, the wolves have ruined it.
Yes, they have.
But in those days it was great. And, so I'm like, hey, Bob, what do I need? He's like, well, there's this really cool little company in Montana. So I want you to call these guys. And so I got my first pair of Schnee pack boots.
Yeah.
And they were awesome. And I don't know if you know that country well. Have you hunted in there at all?
I don't know it well, but I've been in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's steep.
It's rugged.
It's steep and rugged. And so
we've hunted a lot of similar.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's
and there's that kind of country all over the West. But anyway, really good. So as fate would have it, I became friends with Steve and Gene Schnee, and they were fixing to retire, and I was fixing to move to Montana. So
no way, dude.
That's how it happened.
Really?
Yeah.
So you decided to become a boot company owner.
Yeah.
Like, I am always fascinated by this kind of stuff because what made you think you could just do that? You know what I mean? Like, run a business, own it, like, but in the boot space. Were you not worried that you wouldn't know how to design a boot or forward the brand, or like what part of it felt right?
All of it.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, work hard, you can do anything kind of thing. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And I had a lot to learn, still do. I'm still learning. Make plenty of mistakes. One of the things that you learn in sports, though, too, I think, and it is you lose the fear of failure.
Yeah. You think you're a quarterback.
You totally lose. You have to lose the fear of failure, because there's some great quotes by people like Churchill and TR and guys like that. And it's like failure's never fatal or final, and success is never,
well, you
really
can't ever
either.
achieve greatness if you don't fail a whole bunch along the way. It's part of the process.
It's like hunting.
Yeah.
It's like, Michael learning to kill big elk with a bow. I mean, you're going to fail a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the cost of winning.
Yeah. And so I was fortunate to do some homework, and there's a great bunch of people here who've been with us for a long time.
You weren't doing it alone. You were bringing
No. I was learning from people who knew a lot. And we have a fantastic group. Our head bootmaker's been making Schnee boots in Montana for 35 years.
Wow. Yeah. You can't teach that.
She's fixing to retire here in the next probably couple of years. But her name's Corinne Warden. She's an amazing woman. And it's cool. And, you dive in and you learn, and you figure you probably screw up. And I certainly have. And I'm sure not the last time.
So like with the Schnee name, like, why didn't you decide when you took it over to like make it Edwards boots or something?
Well, it also happens to be the German word for snow.
Oh, okay.
I love that.
So I like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's why we got the snowflake.
Yeah.
And I'm about 3/4 German, so
nice.
Kind of stubborn, I guess.
Yeah.
Fits. So what year was that?
20 years ago. So
okay.
2004?
Yeah.
2003?
Yeah. Spring 2005, so not quite
05.
20, yeah.
So in the course of this Schnee'S journey, what is like the two scariest, I guess, like the most difficult things that happened in your company history since you kind of took it over?
Well,
maybe not scariest, but like
yeah, risky, kind of like, hope this works. Well, we bought Schnee'S, then we bought the Powderhorn.
Okay.
And we bought this building.
And
big
nut to crack. Is that like
it's not? I may write a book about this. It's not easy to transition small, closely held, family-owned businesses.
Yep.
It's very. It's not. There's challenges, and relatively small community. So caught some heat. Plenty. But kind of believed in the compass heading and just kind of keep on going. Moving when we bought Schnee'S, it was down the street. So we moved it into this location. Okay. That was a little challenging because you never really know, even though it's not far,
it's a sporting goods store that's been around since 1946 in the same building forever. And that was kind of I think Bo's been really changing.
Yeah, there's a big economic downturn in 08.
07, 08.
Coming to Bozeman.
08 crushed me.
Yeah, coming to
crushed me. I owned so much real estate going into 08. So a little story on my side. I had been making all this money, and it was good heavy, consulting income type stuff, doing big audits, and I went independent and became an independent auditor, or I should say consultant. I hate that word, but that's what I was. So I'd bill myself out for $180, $200 an hour, and I would do these different jobs.
This is great, man. I think your background's even worse than mine. This is great.
And but you only see like it was all fine and dandy when money was flowing free. The first thing Nike and all these companies cut is consulting as soon as the 08 thing came. Well, I took every penny I had because I wanted to build wealth, so I'd have more freedom. So I bought oversized lots in downtown Portland, and then we'd subdivide them into flagship lots. My brother-in-law and I and my cousin Ben, the three of us were partners, and then we would develop those lots. So every penny I was making with this big income, I was putting into real estate. We did that and flipped houses and sold them and did all this construction on the side while I'm doing audits over here. And and things were going great. I was making a pretty easy income on that consulting side. And then we decided to take all our money, pool it together, and buy a subdivision. So now all the eggs are in one basket. And we got a construction loan to build, but we didn't really, it was too much too fast. It was too big. We didn't have the pockets to, if things didn't go right, that was I learned it was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
We put too much, we put it all in. And then we weren't reading the tea leaves with the economy either at that time. In the meantime, my poor wife, I built a tree house on my parents' like 10 acres in Oregon, and we'd been living there like 8 years, like a legit, I'll show you some pictures. Like, cool. It's about as
see some of the tree houses he built me.
Really?
Yeah, about 20% done.
Sure.
5%
Sure, they're
done.
very similar.
It's like,
This
this will actually make a pretty
this
nice
had
platform.
running water,
Blind.
electricity. Like it was a
Nice.
legit house, double French doors, big decks. I mean, it was pretty
sweet.
cool looking. But I just used all the supplies left over from jobs and stuff, and I was building it on the side and just built this tree house and lived in it for a long time. My wife was getting ready. She was ready for the millionaire retirement fund to come rolling in, and didn't happen. The 2008 thing happened. We had a construction loan lined up, but couldn't get it quite done. And then, dude, it seemed like overnight it all ended.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get a loan to save our life. And I was stuck on all these lots we couldn't get developed. And then the downtown city of Gresham just railroaded us. And these other guys came in, and it was like, well, what do you do? We were not in a financial position to handle the big league real estate guys that came in. And in the end, we sold it we lost everything. I probably had a couple $100,000 just over the years, had just all pooled into this thing and just was gone. So at that point, I was like, screw trying to get rich. This whole thing I was a little mad. I had lived, a real frugal life when all my friends were buying cars and doing all this stuff. And here I was trying to build wealth, and then I screwed it up. And that was a tough pill to swallow. And so for about 4 or 5 years, all I did was work from home. I worked it so I didn't have to go into the office. I took all the money and started spending it, and just took it easy for 4 or 5 years. But then life got boring. I just wasn't excited by.
It's BS. It's like everyone should like chasing well is BS. It's total garbage. And what matters is trying to accomplish something, trying to build something. You might win, you might lose.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're a better person for having put it on the line.
It's the adventure.
And it's the adventure. It's so much like hunting. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like your best hunts. And I love, like Michael shot a great bear up in Alaska. And at the beginning of it, it's foggy. I know it's going to be brutal and with an uncertain outcome. And there's like nothing better.
Yeah.
Starting off, and you're going to go for it.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, the adventure part of it, like what we do, I mean, I solo hunting. I like really have dove into the solo hunting thing. Obviously not as much now, but did it when I was 16, started when I was 16, and I stayed overnight and was scared crapless. Like it was the hardest thing I ever did. And when I was 17, started a couple nights, and it got into like, when I got into my mid 20s, early 20s, like I could care less to go out by myself. And now I'm like 12 days, 14 days, but the adventure that comes with it, and like the person that it makes you become, it like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It
really
is
hard to explain.
Like I try to explain it to like a lot of my friends, especially since COVID.
Yeah.
I've gotten into hunting, and it's solo hunting is just a different thing. I think it's the
What
best.
do you like? What do you like about it?
For me, I mean, I honestly didn't hunt a whole lot once I went to college. So I went to the University of Montana over in Missoula, and it was mostly fly fishing.
You're hated around here. You're a
big
Grizz.
time, yeah.
You're a Grizz.
Liberal arts major. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Not a bobcat.
just a total like fly fishing hippie bum for most of college. And towards the end, I had one friend. We'd drive around trying to shoot like a whitetail doe and things like that. But once I was out of college, like I still wasn't hunting. I was just like, I remember sitting around like feeling sorry for myself, bored, like, oh, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh, well, I've got an antelope tag. So like, screw it. Like Saturday, I'm just going to go and drive out and, look for antelope. And saw a bunch of antelope. Never ended up getting anything, but it was like the first time I'd ever gone out and like, I don't think I camped. I think I just got a hotel or something, but it was like, totally alone hunting for 2 days. It's the first time I've ever gone hunting at all without my dad. Or I guess my buddy, that was just truck hunting, but, yeah. And it just kind of spiraled from there. And now it's like, it's just like, it's like me time, I guess, would be a simple way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer hunting with a buddy, or do you prefer not, like, doing it by yourself? Which ones are you drawn to?
I like hunting camp.
Yeah.
It was a good group of guys. I don't care. I mean, if we're going out together, if we're just trying to get a cow elk, or if we're trying to look for that one buck, like, I really don't care. Shoot, this spring I went to like 3 different turkey camps, I think.
Yeah.
And I think turkey hunting's, I'll own it. Like, I think it's one of the dumbest things in the world.
I second you.
We're going to be making some friends with this one.
Like I was telling you before, when my son this year shot a turkey, I'm like, how can I get so jacked up over
it's still fun,
turkey?
Dude.
Over a flightless bird.
It is so, I don't know though. It's like
fun.
It's fun. But that's the thing.
I haven't killed one yet.
I had some great hunting camps. Like, I mean, guys that I honestly don't know if I'd hang out with otherwise. Like, one I got invited to, another one was friend of a friend. Let's go out and like, let's just hang out in a wall tent and, have some beers and shoot some turkeys. Like, that's what I feel like closest to God, everything. I just love being in a hunting camp.
What's your, so far, like the most, the hunt that stands out the most, like the most rewarding hunt you've been on?
Probably just this year. I mean, my first elk with a bow, for sure.
And it's just a tiny one.
Yeah.
Just a little bull.
Yeah.
Break this down for me.
I mean, again, it was like, I just kind of had this feeling in my gut, like I should like leave Wednesday. I wanted to hunt Thursday, and the hunting sucked. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything all day Wednesday.
I mean, it's tiny. It's a little bull.
Holy,
he's just over there.
What an amazing bull!
Yeah,
wow.
It was incredible. Just the way that whole thing worked out. Like,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, no.
What a unique bull
he is.
Yeah, I think he's got a broken pedicle on his right side.
Wow, that is freaking cool.
So is that one a solo hunt?
Yeah, I mean, I was there alone for 2 days, and then
Dad and Junior show up just in time to pack
out.
Yeah. But my D loop was loose on my bow, so I just spent 3 hours like just somewhat getting my bow back out of tune. So I was like, all right, 30 yards and in, we'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
And one of those just miraculous things where it worked out. Heard a bugle in the middle of the day, and it was special to me because like I was alone, and then shot him and hiked up and got a little service and called them, and they were just getting there. So we were still like Dad, brother, and I were all able to share it together.
That's so cool.
Be honest, like, which way did you lean? Like when you did it, like, dude, look at what I just did. Or was it more like...
I was borderline puking.
It was more like, I can't believe this is
happening. We were talking about like the shakes and everything.
Pinching yourself.
I mean, I'm so new to bow hunting. Like, I still get really nervous. Even if I see a cow at like 100 yards, I start getting a little shaky. And it's just one of those things where it worked out, and cows kind of fed through, and I just saw it was a 6-point bull through a juniper. That's all I could really see. But then they went up over a ridge, and I had great wind behind a huge juniper. Had been 20 minutes, and so then I was like totally relaxed. I was like, all right, well, cow call, and if he comes in, like,
no way,
it's a 6-point. Like, I'm just gonna shoot him. And I did, and then once I like got up to him and found him, like, there was a lot of panic because he didn't stop, so I had to shoot him like while he was kind of trotting, quartering away. But once I found him, then I was like stomach cramps, everything. I was just freaking out. I didn't know what to do.
So what did Dad say?
It's the coolest thing on earth.
He's kind of crafty, I'm telling you. He's kind of got that knack.
Yeah.
But I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. I mean, the amount of times I've done that same thing, like just heard a bugle and waited for elk to walk out, or, I mean, that's the coolest part of bow hunting for me is 99% of stuff you could do absolutely perfect, but wind will change, elk don't come out. Like, I mean, that there's just that little piece of just like luck or grace or whatever you want to call it that you have to kind of rely on.
I've killed a lot of animals with a bow at this point. It's been great. Every time I do it, I still feel like I can't believe that happened. I feel like I should have graduated from that stage by now, but every time I kill something with a bow, I feel like it was a monumental effort to make it happen. And when it happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, it worked.
Yeah.
Why does it feel that way? I feel like it should be like walking out, like Brinker said. Every time he walks out, he's like, I'm gonna kill today. Like he has this unnatural level of belief that he's gonna get it done. I'm like, I don't have that belief. I have that belief that I will never quit, but I don't actually think it's going to happen that day. Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time like I see something like an antelope or a deer in a good spot, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just run. I'll run over there and kill that thing real quick, and then you never get within like 200 yards.
Yeah.
Right.
But when it's like, all right, I might as well just go try. Like you end up getting to like full draw or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah.
Bow hunting spot and stock Western big game is. I'm sorry, it's just the greatest.
It is.
It's
now
challenging.
Up there with that, I would say is late October rifle hunting mule deer, because it's one of the toughest for a big mature buck. It's one of the toughest hunts. And so I put that up there with bow hunting.
I'm curious.
I think
though,
it's like closer to like a sheep hunt that time of year too. Like,
it's hard,
especially
man.
those timber bucks.
Yeah, I mean you can get arguments around different rifle sports like mule deer hunting, and obviously sheep hunting is sensational too.
Absolutely.
But
I'd say this though. One thing that's kind of fascinating to me lately is I've grew up doing it and I've been on a lot of hunts, and so I kind of take somewhat I take hunting for granted. Like it's what I do. So when it's introduced to somebody who hasn't done it before, but comes from a different walk of life, let's say it was the other day, I think it was Rich Froning, multi, like 4-time CrossFit champion, biggest man in the world, Rich. And he was like, he shot a couple bull elk with his bow this year. And, but we were talking and he had shot an elk the year before, first time, I think it was. And I was like, well, how did it feel? And what was it like? And, and he's just trying to describe it to me and done it. And then, someone was like, well, how does it compare to like winning the CrossFit games or doing this or doing that? And he's like, it's nothing like that. It feels totally different. Right. And I'm like better or worse? And he's like, it feels better. And then I heard some UFC guys that were being asked the same question that were into hunting. And then you hear like a
NFL player or
like a Jocko or somebody or Andy, and they go out from this. They're shooting people, right? They're at the height of like war and experiencing some of the most intense things in the world. Or
Jack Carr.
Yeah, and then, absolutely. But yet something about hunting, I think it's in your DNA. I think it's just so primal that it connects with every man in some way that is hard to explain. But I've always thought when I hear them say this, a moment with this animal and this with the bow and arrow or something is so, it felt incredible. And that they didn't feel that way at the height of like UFC championship. I'm like Chad Mendez.
Yeah.
Well, what do you feel in that moment? I've never experienced it. I can't. I'm never going to be a UFC champion.
No, but I think a lot of us play sports of one kind or another. Michael was a good athlete. His brother's, junior national skier, Park City. His sister's a good athlete. My wife's a good athlete. So you get some of that from sports. I think there's a distinction with the army fighters, the war fighters.
Yeah.
Guys shooting back at you. I think that's a next level human experience.
Yeah.
My
has to be.
My big brother was a big influence on me. His name's Mike Edwards, and he got his Ranger tab. And, so I love the veterans. We've got the Scout Arms guys here now, and they're all veterans and phenomenal guys. So outside of that, right? Like you're putting your life online for principle. Then you got sports.
Yeah.
And in the world of sports, we've all experienced things.
Yeah.
I've never been at that level of what you're talking about either. But hunting, man, it's right up there, maybe better, maybe exceeds some of the, and you get that from guys who've played in the NBA or the NFL or high level stuff.
I heard Shane Mahoney in conservation. He once said something like, hunting is man's oldest try at life. And what he was trying to say is we all got here because we've hunted our way here, like as a species, as human beings. And he was saying that, there's two like things that you had to be able to do for your genes to get to this point. You had to be able to fight and you had to be able to hunt. You know, that those are two like of the most basic human functions to survive. And do you think about that? And it's like, well, I guess he's right. And so in us is something primal about fighting and something primal about hunting. And so I think that we all are at some level, some more than others, of course. There's some dudes that are just built to be warriors, and then some that are built to be hunters.
Some may have been more along the gathering.
No offense. There's a place for everyone.
Right. True. There is that. But anyway, I don't know. There is something that awakens in me from sneaking up on animals. The wind matters. The ground, like all these things are so important. And there's also a reprieve from civilization, from daily life. Like totally. I don't think about emails, whether I'm paying the bills or not. Like everything in that moment is suspended, and it's just breathing. And there's something peaceful about that moment that you get that you don't get in any other walk of life, really.
The best hunt I was on last year was, I've been wanting to do like a wall tent mule deer camp, like in some snow for a few years now. It just work's always kind of got in the middle of it, and so I drove, it took me about 8 hours to get all the way out to eastern Montana because I drove through a snowstorm just to get ahead of it and camps, and then the snow hit. I woke up to like 2 feet of snow, all my water's frozen, chainsaw doesn't start, everything. It's a total whiteout. You can only see 200-300 yards at the most. So I just like put a rangefinder in my pocket, and I took my old 30-30 and just hiked around all day with that. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
Duckworth and powder hoodie, you know, and some wool pants and back boots, and just walked around all day, kind of following tracks, and didn't see much. And then finally was up on a hill at the end of the day, and the sky finally opened up, and there's 4 mule deer bucks, like, you know, young 3-4-year-old bucks, just sitting there at, you know, 400 or 500 yards. And like one of them would have been a nice, like, you know, trophy with a 30-30, but like it was just such a cool day. I just wanted to just kind of sit there and sat in the snow until the sun finally went down and hiked back to the tent. Like it was one of the coolest days I've ever had hunting.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going back to the solo stuff, like, and the, you know,
the
not worrying about emails or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because when you're hunting with buddies, there's still decisions to be made, whether we want to do it how he wants to do it or how I want to do it. There's still, you know, I don't want to mess this up for my buddy. When I'm solo, it's just like, it's me. If I screw up, it's on me.
No one to blame but yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Ryan told me one time, he's like, if you want to become a better hunter, it's essential that you solo hunt, because all the decisions boil down to you. But you also find out that he basically was like, you'll find that you're more successful in the long run. And I think he's right. And he mentioned all the things that get in the way when you're hunting with 2 guys or a buddy that don't happen when you're solo. And their pacing and the way you move and all that is all just your own decision. And it's just natural, more natural.
Totally. And I think the deeper in you go, like if you really get into the wilderness, and if you get into the wilderness solo, you learn things about yourself.
Yep.
Big time. And it becomes kind of a spiritual thing.
Absolutely.
Very much a physical thing too. I have a horse and a mule that I like a lot, and I love nothing more than doing that solo.
Yep. Yeah.
That's another level, and I'm not near the horseman. I'll never be the horseman you are.
No, whatever.
But I enjoy it. You know, it's like I do. It's a very peaceful thing to get on back of a horse and ride around eastern Montana or western Montana, man.
It's like a dream.
There's kind of, it's hard. is next level for me.
The boot company, been doing it for a while now. What do you think is the, what goes into making a great boot?
Guys like you know, great hunters, input from guys like trying to kind of push the envelope and get better. We love that we have some boots in our line that have stood the test of time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're going to hopefully be around till long after I'm dead.
Yeah.
But it's also really fun to come up with new stuff. And speaking about Ryan, I listen to Ryan, and hear what he has to say about stuff, and other people have input. And so that's fun. We're super fortunate. We've got resources at some places so our primary lasted footwear, alpine, trekking, mountaineering style of boots are all made in this phenomenal place in the foothills of the Dolomites, outside of Verona, Italy.
I've been there.
And it's a special, cool place.
It is.
And there's lots of footwear that's made in that area. I get that, but we like our spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the family
fascinating
that we work with there. And they actually just had a death in the family that's old patriarch who's will be missed, but so that's fun. And technology just keeps on banging away, man. New materials, and let's figure out a way to do something that's a little bit. We're working on the lighter, faster end of our line. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We got the warm. we
got warm.
Very good. Got about 150-ish miles on them right now.
Yeah, right on.
Just saying,
right on. So we like that, and trying to anticipate, what's going to happen, and different materials and technology and stuff. So that's really fun.
Yeah.
But you can't do it unless you're hunting a lot yourself and you're interacting with great hunters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And guys who are pushing the envelope, because, I did a podcast recently, did a deep dive on stuff, and it's real out there. Like you can be in danger, mm-hmm. If you're pushing the envelope, in what we do, you can put yourself in places where you got to get a fire going, you got to survive, so you're I think the number one thing for a hunter is weapon. Number two might be footwear, maybe glass. I don't know, depending on how you hunt, but it's right up there in terms of how important it is.
Oh yeah. It's always, packs, boots, packs, and, weapon, kind of like boots are like, they're everything, dude. They really are.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it from a survival standpoint, it's like, it's boots and clothing.
It's not boots if you're not hunting cold seasons, right? Like,
correct.
But most of us, that's when we are. Even the spring.
But even the spring, like in the mountains, it's unforgiving and it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And it comes fast. And then you take it to the next level, and you go to Montana or even Idaho in November, December.
But I can remember,
it's no joke.
I can remember wearing so many different boots in the 90s, 2000s. Mm-hmm. And the way that boots have evolved, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I am blown away by the comfort and durability, and just I used to I remember the boots I used to wear, and I was always making some compromise. Okay, they don't weigh a ton, but gosh, they are sure crappy and they're not waterproof. Oh, these are really waterproof and super warm, but I feel like I got a lead brick strapped to my foot, and and you come to this stage, and it's the same with shelters, backpacks, like everything right now. It's just evolving into such an elite category of equipment. It's pretty cool.
Oh, totally.
Because I used to backpack. I went into the Eagle Cap Wilderness. Mm-hmm. I remember in the early 2000s, the kit I took with me, absolute trash. And it was like among the best on the market, at that time. We have come so far.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable for hunters.
I was like 10 hunting in the old Wrangler Levi jacket, and it was heavy and wet, but I had wool inside and it kept you warm. But as a kid.
So as you've been running and developing boots and stuff and working, what has been the most rewarding part of Schnee'S?
Oh goodness. So many things. Like I love to brag about our team of people here that we work with. They're just, like family, and the hunting industry is a special group of people.
Small,
fairly small. You get to know folks, and there's a lot of common denominators. People who are high integrity, athletic, tough, smart.
Yeah,
go for it.
Especially in Montana,
and
you have that.
So it's
in Utah, I will admit, there's a little more road hunting and a little more side-by-side action.
There's plenty of that going on here.
And I got to brag on some of the gals that we work with. I mean, we've got some women hunters.
I was telling him, like, there's a couple that, like Claudia. I don't know her personally, really, but I know she's friends with like Lydia Smith, and I look at those two, and I'm like, one, what you see is what you get, and they are bad A hunters, man. Not just bad A women, but they are bad A hunters.
Yep.
And they get after it.
Some got the horse thing for, like Amanda,
Amanda's awesome.
Great. And Claudia,
Mariah, Mariah Lovely. Yeah.
I think you met Mariah.
Mariah and I shot at Leupold. Got to know each other. We did a little sniper school together. Talk about one of the nicest, sweetest people, and badass.
Yeah.
So all us guys are there, and we're all, we're trying to do. Randy Newberg's he's hanging out. We got Eva's there, and it was just a fun group of people. And her and Caleb Stillions were the two best. I hate to say this to all these other people that were there. There's like 20 people there, but in my opinion, she was the best shooter outside Caleb. Caleb's a freak. And she could just pull up that rifle in any of these positions. Ping, 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 ping. I was like kind of annoyed. Like, I'm not even close to shooting like she could shoot. And you're just like, wow, wow, how does she do it? I think women, they say, tend to be a little bit better a lot of times than the average woman is better than the average dude at shooting.
Yeah.
But super cool.
Yeah, it is cool, and I'm all for it. And I really want to encourage, his sister, my daughter, is new to it, and I'm hoping she kind of catches fire. She's a super talented young woman, and we'll see.
She's going to be out hunting you, just so you know.
No chance.
And I'll brag on my wife. My wife's a very good horsewoman. So
is she?
She knows her way around a horse pretty good.
What is it with women that love horses? Like,
horses are trippy. They're just like special critters.
They are.
Horses
around horses is like a different thing too. Like she's just like, see it in their eyes, like what they need.
You can.
Yeah.
It's like
horses, llamas, and goats. After being around all of them, I do tend to, like, in the backcountry, I'm like, I do want to take the goats, and then the llamas, and then the horses, because the horses are a lot of work. But we used to run pack strings when I was growing up. We'd run a big pack string, and there's something about it. Like, it's different. I love it, but then I'm always like, I'm so tied down to that horse when I'm hunting.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
we posted something on social not too long ago, and some guy wrote in, it's like, if you're going to post on a pack and a
mule, it was an ad of all things.
Why don't you learn how to pack first?
Good point,
dude. You're not wrong.
Oh boy, I like them all. I've had goats. I've done a lot with the llamas, and had horses and mules. I had a curly horse. You ever seen those? They look
curly horse.
They're like a buffalo. Fur that's curly, and they look like they have fur like a buffalo,
like a Chesapeake Retriever, but a horse.
Yeah, cool. And they're like a Mustang, and they're hypoallergenic. I only bought it because it's $400, and I needed a horse.
Good thinking.
And I was like,
good luck.
What is it? So I got this horse. It's $400. It's curly horse. It was young. It was like 3 years old and hadn't really been trained. Anyway, you should look it up. They were fascinating.
Yeah.
And this horse was like one of the easiest to train. Went all over the Eagle Caps with us. Never had been broke. They seem to break super easy.
Holy smokes.
Check it out. It's a weird critter. And then we had mules that we would carry. And I really liked the Mustangs and the mules because they could handle the mountains that we were in.
Do they do better with like cold weather and stuff too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, the story goes in Nevada, there was a herd of some couple hundred horses or whatnot. And the Indians would take these curly horses and they would revere them because they were, so the story goes, because they look like buffalo. And so the chief would get every now and then you get this curly strain of hair. And at first they thought it was the Bashkir, something curly horse they thought it was a gene from, like the Mongolian steppe kind of thing.
Huh.
And turns out, no, there's no gene linkage whatsoever. So for a good 50 years, that's what they thought it was. It wasn't. It turns out it's native, I guess.
Has it been bred or just kind of Mustang?
It was just here.
Yeah.
The Indians had them.
Oh, wow.
So then in Nevada, there was a bunch, and I guess what happened was they had a super cold snap at that time, and I think it was 80% or 90% of the horses died, except the curly horses. They all lived.
Wow.
They're the only they seem to be adapted for that, and so. Anyway, it's really interesting. Check them out, and their fur is different. They don't emit the same oils, and so people who are allergic to horses are not allergic to these horses. And anyway, I loved this horse. I mean, rode it. It was a pretty amazing horse. Mustang, so it wasn't as big as your typical.
Yeah,
but we could take it up in the mountains, and I didn't have to worry about it like. Some of our quarter horses and stuff, they're so busy fighting on the side of a cliff, kicking each other. And I'm like, dude, the mules and the curly horse were smart and we're never going to step off the ledge. But I swear some of these other horses are the dumbest animals.
That goes to like a mule. I mean, they can see where their back foot's like when a mule kicks, they don't miss.
Right.
Because they can see it's just like stepping where your horses, they can't see that.
And the curly horse
so they step off the trail all the time.
Yeah, they're just figuring out ways to hurt themselves or you or somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the curly horse has eyes on the side like the mule does.
Okay.
And they can see their wide set. So it's a weird, I don't even know where it came from.
I got to look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, folks, thanks for tuning into the podcast. And John, Mike, I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Man. Awesome.
What's going on at Peaks?
We got they got Green Headlamp just came out, I think.
That's sold out already. And
no, we had a board meeting there yesterday and just got to hang out, and it's going really well.
Sweet.
It's small, there's 5 SKUs or something at Peaks. There's got some poles, some gators, and a shelter,
sleeping bag.
That's gonna be nice.
But little by little, it's one of those things where we can input the gear and go, hey, we like this, we don't like that. And it's small enough that they listen to us, which is kind of like with you guys. We can talk to you about boots and what we like, what we don't like. And Ryan can, really wear them 200 days and the gnarliest of places. And then he can come back and say, hey, what if you did this? And then you guys listen. So that is special to us. That's really the type of companies we've tried to align ourselves with, and companies that go deaf to us, we kind of just don't have much time for anymore. It's like it really hurts when they come out with something that they figured out in a boardroom, but just doesn't meet doesn't satisfy or solve the problem of the hunter.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I congratulate you guys on what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Well,
really, really
the
cool.
last time we were here, I hadn't been to the Schnee'S store, and Bozeman, since I was a kid, has just gone crazy. Coming here and there was nothing here.
Yeah.
But when we were in the store last, I was like, dang, dude. I don't know. I was genuinely impressed because of the amount of people and traffic in here, and not just hunters. I mean, the family, the ladies. It was pretty incredible. Really, really was. It was eye-opening. And
well, I'll just say, and I'm just so proud of our team because we are planting a flag in the middle of downtown Bozeman, Montana.
Yes, you are.
And we ain't leaving.
Good.
I love it.
And it's just the way I am. It's very, very easy for some people to sort of oh man, traffic, town's changing, blah, blah, blah. But I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, no, screw it. We're going to bring some veterans in and we're going to make guns on Main Street and we're going to stand up for something we believe in. And I think that's an attitude that we should try to
absolutely
encourage people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I put that wolf film out, I was like, I don't want us to be apologizing or giving up ground for hunting. We need to do a lot less of the, I hunt, but I understand if you don't like us. And no,
worrying about
there just needs to be.
I think it's okay to say that hunting is just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I just think that the days of apologizing for what we do, why? Like just really stand behind it and be as authentic and real as you can be. Totally. And I think society needs it. I think there's a pendulum swing right now going toward like traditional values in a way that had faded for a while.
Yeah. And free speech and, we have to be able to speak our mind and, all of that, problems are made to be solved. If I want a hunter who's pulling a horse trailer to be able to wheel up in front of my store, and we'll park your rig for you. Like, you come on in, we got coffee going. Let's, because traffic, cool. it's whatever, it's traffic. You just deal with it. We can park your rig. So anyway, stuff like that.
That's really cool, though.
That's cool.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks fellas.
Enjoyed it. Jumping on the call. Yeah, folks, thanks for tuning in. Check out Schnee'S Boots. Stay gritty.